Saving money sounds simple from the outside. Spend less than you earn. Put the difference away. Repeat the process. And over time, stability should grow. That is the version most people are taught. But in real life, saving money often feels much harder than the explanation suggests. Not because people are unintelligent, not because people don't care, and not because every person struggling to save lacks discipline. For many people, the problem begins before the money ever reaches savings, because modern financial life is structured to absorb extra money quickly, quietly, automatically. And once a system becomes good at absorbing surplus, saving starts feeling almost impossible. Not because the idea is complicated, because the environment surrounding the idea is powerful. This is Streetwise Wealth Academy. I'm Winston, your synthetic financial educator. This content is educational commentary only and is not personalized financial advice, so always research financial decisions carefully. One of the biggest misunderstandings about saving money is that people often treat it like a simple math problem. Income comes in, expenses go out. Whatever remains can be saved. That sounds logical. But the problem is that real financial life rarely stays that clean. Because expenses are not static. Behavior is not static. Stress is not static. And modern systems are constantly competing for whatever financial space appears. That is the deeper issue. Saving money requires space, but modern financial life often fills space quickly. A little extra income appears. Then a bill increases. A subscription renews. A repair appears. A convenience becomes routine. A small upgrade feels reasonable. And before long, the surplus that should have become savings disappears into the structure of daily life. Not always through one big mistake, usually through small, normal expenses that arrive one after another. That is what makes saving difficult emotionally. The money does not always disappear dramatically. It disappears normally. Groceries cost more than expected. Gas costs more than expected. Insurance adjusts, rent increases, a car issue appears, a medical bill appears, a family responsibility appears, and each expense feels legitimate, because many of them are legitimate. That matters, because when every cost feels reasonable, it becomes harder to identify where the pressure is coming from. Now, another important layer here is timing. Saving money often requires money to stay available long enough to be protected. But modern financial life creates constant timing pressure. Bills are due. Payments are scheduled. Subscriptions renew automatically. Unexpected expenses arrive without warning. And once income reaches the account, multiple systems are already waiting for it. That changes the emotional experience of saving, because money does not always feel like opportunity. It often feels like something passing through. Income arrives. Obligations take their part. Life absorbs the rest. Then the cycle repeats. Now, this does not mean people are powerless, and it does not mean saving is impossible. The point is understanding why saving feels difficult for so many people. Because once people understand the structure, they stop interpreting every struggle as personal failure. That perspective matters. Now, another major reason saving feels difficult is recurring obligations. Recurring obligations quietly reduce flexibility every month. Rent, vehicle payments, insurance, subscriptions, debt payments, utilities, service plans, payment systems operating continuously underneath daily life. And individually, many of these obligations feel manageable. That is the important part. A single payment may not feel heavy. A single subscription may not feel dangerous. A single recurring cost may feel completely normal. But together, they create a structure that claims income before saving can happen. That structure matters more than most people realize because savings usually comes from flexibility, and recurring obligations reduce flexibility, quietly, consistently, every month. Now, another important factor here is lifestyle normalization, because human beings adapt quickly to whatever becomes normal. A convenience feels special at first, then it becomes routine. A slightly better lifestyle feels rewarding at first. Then it becomes baseline. An upgraded service feels optional at first. Then it becomes expected. And once expectations normalize upward, money that could have become savings often gets absorbed into maintaining the new baseline. Not because people are reckless, Because adaptation is normal. Human beings adjust to improved conditions quickly, that is psychology. But financially, that adaptation can quietly consume surplus before it becomes visible. Now, another reason saving feels difficult is emotional exhaustion. People do not make financial decisions in perfect mental conditions. They make decisions while tired, stressed, overwhelmed, busy, emotionally drained. And when people are exhausted, convenience becomes more attractive. Not because they are weak, because overloaded minds naturally conserve energy. Food delivery feels easier. Impulse purchases feel comforting. Entertainment feels necessary. Small rewards feel deserved. And in the moment, many of those decisions make emotional sense. That is what makes the system complicated. The spending is not always irrational. Sometimes it is emotional relief. Sometimes it is energy management. Sometimes it is the easiest option after a long day. But repeated across time, those small emotional decisions can absorb the space where savings would have grown. Now, another important layer here is friction. Saving often requires delay, patience, restraint, future focus. But spending has become increasingly frictionless. Tap to pay, one-click ordering, stored payment methods, automatic renewals, instant financing, subscriptions that continue without attention. Modern systems make spending easy, and easy behavior repeats more naturally. That is not a moral flaw, that is human behavior. The easier something becomes, the more often people tend to do it. And when spending becomes easier than saving, the structure itself begins shaping behavior. Now, saving usually requires the opposite of frictionless behavior. It requires pause, attention, awareness, and sometimes discomfort. Because saving means not using money immediately. That can be emotionally difficult when the surrounding environment is constantly offering immediate relief, immediate convenience, immediate entertainment, immediate upgrades, immediate comfort. That contrast matters. Spending gives emotional feedback now. Saving often gives emotional benefit later. And human beings naturally feel the present more strongly than the future. That is why saving can feel emotionally unrewarding at first, even when people intellectually understand why it matters. Now, another important factor is comparison. Modern environments constantly show people upgraded lifestyles. Better homes, better cars, better vacations, better food, better technology, better versions of normal. And repeated exposure quietly changes expectations. Not because people consciously compare themselves every second, because human beings naturally adapt to what they see repeatedly. When upgraded living is constantly visible, ordinary life can begin feeling behind. And once people feel behind, spending can become emotional correction. A way to feel caught up, a way to feel normal, a way to feel like life is improving. That emotional pressure can quietly compete with saving. Because saving is often invisible. Nobody sees the money not spent. Nobody applauds flexibility. Nobody notices breathing room. But visible consumption gets recognized immediately. That creates a strange cultural pressure. The things that reduce flexibility are often visible. The things that increase flexibility are often invisible. Now, another reason saving feels impossible is uncertainty. When life feels unstable, saving can feel both necessary and impossible at the same time. People know they need margin, but the same instability that makes margin necessary also makes margin harder to build. Unexpected expenses keep arriving. Income may feel uncertain. Costs may keep rising. Responsibilities may expand, and when uncertainty is constant, people often stay in survival mode. Survival mode focuses on the immediate, the next bill, the next payment, the next problem, the next week. That kind of focus makes sense under pressure, but it also makes long-term saving harder to sustain psychologically. Now, another important layer here is identity. Many people quietly attach shame to saving struggles. They think, I should be better at this. I should have more saved by now. I must be behind. But shame rarely improves clarity. Shame often makes financial behavior more emotional, more avoidant, more stressful. And when people feel ashamed, They may avoid looking closely at the system entirely. That matters, because avoidance reduces awareness, and without awareness, patterns remain invisible. Now, this does not mean every saving struggle is caused by systems alone. Personal choices matter, habits matter, behavior matters, but behavior happens inside environments, and environments influence behavior continuously. That is the key distinction. A person may want to save, but they may also be living inside a structure filled with recurring obligations, low-friction spending, emotional exhaustion, constant comparison, automatic payments, rising expectations, and all of those forces compete for the same money. That is why saving is not simply about desire, it is about structure. Now, another important reason saving feels difficult is that many people were never taught how money behaves across time. They were taught how to spend, how to pay bills, how to use credit, how to manage payments, but not always how repeated systems shape flexibility over years. And saving is deeply connected to time. Small amounts matter over time. Repeated protection matters over time. Avoiding automatic absorption matters over time. But if people only evaluate money and monthly survival cycles, the long-term structure becomes harder to see. Now, if you step back and observe the broader pattern, something important becomes clear. Income arrives. Obligations claim part of it. Convenience absorbs part of it. Stress influences part of it. Expectations reshape part of it. And whatever remains is expected to become savings. That is a difficult structure. Not impossible, but difficult. And understanding that structure changes how the problem feels. Because the issue is not always lack of intention. Often the issue is that savings is competing against systems designed to absorb available money continuously. Now, understanding this should not create hopelessness. Hopelessness rarely improves clarity. The goal is perspective, because perspective changes observation. Instead of viewing saving struggles purely as personal weakness, people can begin noticing the systems competing for surplus. Recurring obligations, convenience systems, expectation systems, stress systems, frictionless spending systems. And once those systems become visible, saving stops looking like a simple willpower issue. It starts looking structural, behavioral, environmental, a pattern shaped by repeated forces over time. That awareness matters, because invisible systems are usually the hardest systems to evaluate. Not because they are unbeatable, but because people stop seeing them clearly. Now, financial life is rarely shaped by one dramatic event. It is usually shaped through repeated systems operating quietly across time. Small payments, small conveniences, small expectations, small automatic behaviors, all accumulating gradually underneath awareness. And once those patterns become visible, many people realize something important. Saving money is not difficult because the concept is complicated. The concept is simple. The environment is complicated, and that distinction changes how modern financial behavior itself gets interpreted. Less emotionally, more structurally, more clearly. Because financial stability is rarely built by accident. It usually begins when people can finally see the systems competing for their flexibility. And every lesson in this series is designed to make those hidden structures easier to see clearly. That concludes today's lesson. Peace. If this lesson helped you see money a little differently, then stay with the series. Because financial understanding is not built from one idea. It is built layer by layer. One system, one pattern, one hidden behavior at a time. This first month is focused on the financial lessons many adults were never properly taught growing up. How money moves, how debt works, how stress builds, how behavior gets shaped, and how modern financial systems quietly influence everyday life. So watch the next lesson when you're ready, and keep building the foundation. This is Streetwise Wealth Academy. I'm Winston. Peace.